What if the challenges we experience in life are actually invitations from God the Parent to lean into God's parental love for us? What does a world in which no one is considered an outsider look like? Let these questions sit for a moment. Good morning. Led by Bishop and Mrs. Fukaya, we have gathered on this beautiful spring day with unity of mind for the March monthly service at Mission Headquarters in America. Together, we expressed our gratitude to God the Parent and Oyasama for the blessings we receive each day and prayed for world peace and the well-being of all our brothers and sisters around the world. Thank you for your sincere prayers and participation. I am deeply honored to have been given the opportunity to deliver this month's sermon before God the Parent, Oyasama, and all of you. I'm also grateful to Mrs. Akane Yoshida for translating and reading my sermon in Japanese today. So thank you. I now ask for your kind attention. Less than 2 months ago, my daughter Hannah and I gathered in Ojiba, the parental home of all humankind, with over 120,000 worshipers from around the world, including many of you here today, to celebrate the 140th anniversary of Oyasama. It was January 26th, the day that our beloved Oyasama shortened her term of life by 25 years to save all humankind. And let me tell you, it was cold. Now, I know what you're thinking. Come on, Koji, you're from Southern California, so everything feels cold to you. And you'd be right, so Hannah and I prepared. We had our thermals and many layers of clothes. We had our winter jackets, our beanies pulled down over our ears. We had our gloves and those little hand warmers you shake and stuff in your pockets. And we were still shivering. It was the kind of cold that makes your breath visible, that makes your fingers ache, and had me dreaming of warm Southern California weather. I'll admit it, I am soft when it comes to cold. But here's what I thought about that day as we participated in the anniversary service. Oyasama endured far colder weather under terrible conditions. Yet she did so from her parental love for all humankind and demonstrated gratitude, no matter how cold or challenging the situation. And there we were, with over 120,000 followers of our path, with the ability to perform the service without any concerns of authorities threatening or persecuting us, because Oyasama and her disciples walked this path before us. Let's picture what it was like in the dead winter of Yamato Province, Japan in the 1880s. Oyasama was in her 80s, 80 years old, at an age when most of us would be resting when we want nothing more than warmth and comfort and peace during the cold winter months. Oyasama was being dragged from the residence by authorities again and again and again. Approximately 18 times. 18 times she was taken from police stations to police stations and prisons. No thermals, no winter jacket, no gloves or heat warmers, hand warmers, just her red kimono and her single-hearted desire to save humankind. We read or heard the stories of authorities that would come in the middle of the night, pounding on the gates. They would take Oyasama away in the bitter cold of January or in the freezing winds of February. They would detain her in prison cells with dirt floors, with no heat, with barely any food. They would interrogate her, mock her, and try to break her. And how did Oyasama respond? She smiled. She responded with kindness, never anger. She responded with love. In fact, Oyasama once said, quote, "When police officers come, it is God bringing them home to the residence. When I go to the police, it is God taking me there," unquote. Can you imagine being dragged to prison and seeing it as God's arrangement? I often struggle with seeing difficulties in my life as blessings, but that's what Oyasama modeled for us. This is how she began the path, a path that started with her alone. The Shinbashira emphasizes this in Instruction 4, stating, quote, "Our predecessors earnestly followed the path that had begun with Oyasama alone by using her divine model as their dependable guide and maintained the path for us to walk on," unquote. And from that single beginning, look where we are now. We have churches and places of worship all over the world, including our beautiful sanctuary here at the mission headquarters in America, where we can perform the service without fear of persecution. How blessed we are. In the anecdotes of Oyasama 106, symbolic serving, Oyasama was confined in Nara prison for 12 days, starting from October 29, 1882. Followers brought her things each day, walking 11 kilometers, which is about 7 miles, in the pre-dawn darkness. And when Oyasama was finally released and returned to the residence, do you know what she said to Shirobe Umetani, who had faithfully brought her provisions every day? Oyasama said, "Shirobe, thank you very much for your trouble. I did not feel hungry at all. Thank you." Oyasama thanked him. She who had suffered in prison and had been separated from her children, her followers, and her home, putting others before herself, Oyasama thanked Shirobe for his faithful service. This is the divine model. Gratitude not simply as a feeling, but as a practice, as a resistance against oppression and despair. And this is what was passed down from Oyasama to those first followers, and from those first followers to their children, from generation to generation, from parent to child, and grandparent to grandchild. And here's why this matters right now in March 2026 in our country. Remember that question I asked at the beginning? What if the challenges we experience in life are actually invitations from God, the parent, to lean into God's parental love for us? We are certainly living in challenging times. Turn on the TV or open any news feed on your phones, and what do you see? Division. People talking past each other instead of to each other. Mistreatment of one group of people by other groups. I think about God the parent, our true parent, watching all of this. Imagine, if you will, a parent watching their children treat each other as strangers instead of as family. God the parent created every single one of us with such deep care and love. And to see us, God the parent's beloved children, turning away from or against each other must cause such profound sorrow and regret. In Instruction 4, the Shinbashira emphasizes, quote, "Today, our society is awash with self-assertion that lacks consideration for others, and with self-indulgence in ephemeral pleasures. People are overconfident in their capabilities and tend to be swayed by self-centered human thoughts as they wander about on the mind's dark paths." Unfortunately, what we see today is not new. In fact, in 19th century Japan, Oyasama and her followers faced similar circumstances. The Meiji government was cracking down on any religious practice that didn't fit their narrow view of acceptable worship. They saw Oyasama, whom they assumed was an ordinary woman, teaching that all human beings, including the emperor and anyone in the high mountains, were equally children of God. They believed this to be dangerous. They call this belief a threat to social order. So they imprisoned Oyasama, and they imprisoned her followers. People were thrown into prison cells for the crime of performing the service, for the crime of worshiping God the parent and believing that all people are brothers and sisters. Does this sound familiar? In 2026, we watch as people are told they don't belong in this country because of where they were born, their race or ethnicity, how they speak or how they worship. We watch as families are separated, as communities struggle, as the powerful appear not to see people's humanity. But in the Uesugi, God the parent teaches a very different message through these verses. Quote, "All of you throughout the world are brothers and sisters. There should be no one who is called an outsider. Those living in the high mountains and those living in the low valleys, Their souls are all the same. Uesugi part 13, verses 43 and 45. I asked earlier, what does a world in which no one is considered an outsider look like? And God the Parent makes that absolutely clear in these Uesugi verses. There should be no one who is called an outsider. Their souls are all the same. Not the immigrant, not the refugee, not the person who speaks a different language, practices a different faith, or loves differently than you or me. All of you throughout the world are brothers and sisters. This is not a metaphor. This is not imagery. This is truth. God the Parent created and sustains all human beings, every single one of us, regardless of race, nationality, class, or creed. We were all conceived from the same desire by God the Parent's sincere love and intent for everyone to live a joyous life together. We may not always remember this in our daily lives. Fear and misunderstanding based on self-centered thinking can make us treat each other as strangers and as less than. When that happens, we essentially walk away from the foundation of our teaching. We also bring sorrow to our parent, who wants nothing more than to see us living joyously with one another. Oyasama endured prison because she would not stop proclaiming this truth. She endured the cold, the hunger, the mockery, and the isolation because God the Parent's love is for everyone, not just the powerful, like those in the high mountains, and not just the ones who look like us or think like us. Everyone. I challenge myself to see everyone, including those who disagree with me and misunderstand me, as beloved children of God the Parent. It's not easy. Some days I fail at it, and miserably, I might add. But I believe this is what Oyasama modeled for us and challenges us to do on a daily basis. I would like to connect what Oyasama demonstrated as our divine model in a small village in Japan in the 1800s to someone who has been doing God's work right here in Los Angeles. Some of you may have heard of this gentleman. Father Greg Boyle is a Jesuit priest and former pastor of the Dolores Mission Church right here in Boyle Heights. And he is also the founder of Homeboy Industries, the largest gang intervention and rehabilitation program in the world. Father Greg has been walking the streets of what he describes as his very poor parish of Los Angeles for over 40 years. And he has done so not to preach at people, but to sit with them, to eat with them, to love them. Father Greg calls this kinship, which means refusing to draw a line between us and them. It means looking at someone the world has thrown away and saying, you are family, you belong, no one is disposable. He speaks of love not as something gentle and quiet, but as something bold, overflowing and radical. Father Greg states, quote, here's what we seek, a compassion that can stand in awe at what the poor have to carry, rather than stand in judgment at how they carry it, unquote. Stand in awe, not in judgment. His view of loving all people reflects what Oyasama taught us through her countless actions walking the path. In the anecdotes of Oyasama 195, Thank You for Your Trouble, the following is what Naokichi Takai recalled about Oyasama. Quote, Oyasama made no distinction between people. No matter what kind of person came to the residence, she considered everyone to be her child. No matter how great a man came, she said, thank you for your trouble. Even when beggars came, she said, thank you for your trouble. Her attitude and manner of speaking never changed. She considered them all to be her loving children, unquote. Oyasama never gave up on anyone. When the sick came to her, she did not lecture them about what they had done wrong. She held them, she comforted them, she fed them, she washed their bodies, and she combed their hair. In the anecdotes of Oyasama 23, saving from Tachiyamai disease, local follower Saku Matsumura came to the residence suffering from Tachiyamai disease. She had been so ill for so long that lice had bred in her hair during her fever. So Oyasama combed the lice from Saku's hair and washed the dirt from her body, not with reluctance, not with pity, but with love. Oyasama met people at the margins with what Father Greg calls extravagant and radical tenderness, at a time when treating all people equally was unheard of. No outsiders, no disposable people, not in 1800 Japan, nor should it be in our country in 2026. What I'm learning through Oyasama and others who show love for one another is this. Loving our fellow brothers and sisters, especially those who are hurting, means practicing extravagant tenderness. It means kinship. It means refusing to give up on another human being. When we can do this, we walk the very path Oyasama modeled for us, and we can become more useful instruments of God the Parent to save all people. In a world where people are hurting, confused, and being told they don't matter, what if we could wrap them in warmth and share, "You are a dear child of God the Parent. You are my brother. You are my sister. And there is nothing that can separate you from God the Parent's love." I'd like to now shift my talk slightly and share something personal I experienced with my daughter on that chilly day in Ojiba on January 26th. It was a profound and bittersweet moment because I was standing where my father, Reverend Takeo Uesugi, would have wanted to be if he was here today. This past January, we marked 10 years since my father passed away for rebirth. 10 years since his soul returned to the bosom of God the Parent. And I cannot help but recall how much he longed to be in Ojiba for the 130th anniversary of Oyasama 10 years ago. In fact, in his final sermon at our church, a month before the anniversary, he expressed his desire to return to Ojiba regardless of how ill he was. He was committed spiritually, but unfortunately his body could not make the journey. So instead, he laid in his bed at our church on the day of the anniversary service. But through the power of technology, and more importantly, the sincerity and kindness of Mrs. Koyoshi Koyama and her daughter, Mrs. Erika Su, they live-streamed the service for him. My father was physically 5,300 miles away, but he was able to participate spiritually by listening to the sacred service on a cell phone. He closed his eyes, and he was there in spirit, in heart, and in faith. 10 years later, God the Parent blessed me with a chance to be in Ojiba at Oyasama's anniversary service with his granddaughter beside me. My parents passed this faith to me and my siblings. And I strive to pass our faith on to my daughters, and I pray that my daughters will pass it on to their children and to generations thereafter. Those of us blessed to be here today owe a great deal to our predecessors. Last night at the spring memorial service, the spirit of the late Mrs. Wakie Onishi, a kind and devoted wife, mother, and missionary, was enshrined, and the congregation expressed gratitude to her and all those who paved the way before us. They include our mothers and fathers, our grandmothers and our grandfathers, our great-grandparents, all those who walked this path when it was harder than it is now. And even when they faced more opposition and had less support, they walked the path anyway. They kept their faith anyway, and they passed it down anyway. And because of them, we are here and blessed to walk the same path. I'll repeat what the Shinbasha reminded us in Instruction 4, that our predecessors earnestly followed the path that had begun with Oyasama alone by using her divine model as their dependable guide, and maintained the path for us to walk on. So here's what I'm asking myself, and maybe you're asking it too. How will we honor what they gave us? Will we walk this path with the same fire they had? This is the season of the 140th anniversary of Oyasama. We have this entire year, this wondrous season, to deepen our faith, to practice gratitude, to embody the divine model. Our predecessors maintained this faith through persecution, through poverty, through opposition, and they did it with more joy and gratitude, not less. I believe we can face whatever 2026 and beyond brings with that same spirit. This is what honoring the 140th anniversary of Oyasama means to me. Not just fondly remembering Oyasama, but striving to live what she taught every day, in every interaction, and with every person we meet. I would like to conclude with the following verse from the Ofudesaki. Quote, "To Tsukihi, God the Parent, all of you in the world are my children. Love for you fills me. This is my single heart." Part 17, verse 16. Let us bring joy to God the Parent and Oyasama. Let us honor our predecessors. Let us walk this path with gratitude, courage, and love. And let us commit to passing our precious teaching to the next generation together. Thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts with you today.